What methods can be applied for effective Bible study? Consult reliable non-biblical references, as the information and historical events of the Bible have been well recorded and well researched over many centuries. Trustworthy general encyclopedias and general Internet sites will also be helpful. These also contain information on the many relevant and recent archaeological and biblical discoveries, made possible by modern advances in computer technology. It is exciting to observe how these scientific advances have especially resulted in archaeologists confirming the contents of the Bible. Many of them were not Christians, yet they came to know the Bible as an invaluable archaeological reference book, because of its accuracy. One of the many Bible stories for which physical evidence were found, is the drowning of Pharaoh and his soldiers in the Red Sea. Exodus chapter 14 verse 28. The fact that Jesus died on the cross is also recorded in other early non-Christian historical books, authored by Jewish, Roman, and Greek individuals. It therefore means that statements in any other sacred book or document which state that Jesus was never crucified, or that he did not die on the cross, are actually false. Consulting relevant references, you will also realize how science actually confirms the reliability and accuracy of the Bible, as many things were written in the scriptures long before scientists discovered them. One such validation is the fact that the Earth is suspended in space, which was discovered in 1650. Job stated that God hangeth the earth upon nothing more than 2,000 years prior to this discovery. Job 26 verse 7. In the 17th century, it was discovered that people with infectious diseases had to be isolated from healthy people to prevent these diseases from spreading, i.e., they had to be quarantined. Had this discovery been made earlier, millions of people could have been saved, such as those who died in the Black Death of the 1300s. This key principle of medical practice was, however, already contained in Leviticus chapter 13 verses 45 and 46, and Numbers 5 verse 2, more than 2,700 years before that. Natural science explains the finer details of what is contained in the Bible. It is, however, not necessary to wait for some famous scientist to make a statement regarding scientific findings that confirm the events or teachings of the Bible regarding creation, nature, Jesus, or God. Even that particular scientist is himself part of the science, handwork, of God. Just because no evidence regarding a particular thing has been discovered, collected, or presented yet, does not mean that no evidence exists. Just because something reported has not been discovered yet, does not mean that it never existed. Just because certain diseases have yet to be identified by the scientific community, does not mean they do not exist. Whether evidence was searched for, how, why, when, and where it was searched for, are only some of the things that would determine such discoveries. Furthermore, the technology, materials, equipment, and techniques that would enable certain or relevant information to be obtained from specific samples of evidence, might not be available or in use yet. It is therefore erroneous for some scientists to conclude that God does not exist. Proponents have thus been unsuccessful in convincing Christians and people of other faiths to not believe in a supreme being, or that God is merely a higher power or universal life force. Historical science uncovers things, laws, and phenomena that God established when He created the universe many years ago. Even if the laws of motion were not discovered or identified by Sir Isaac Newton or anyone else, these laws would still govern how and why things move. Sometimes the question even has to be asked: did scientists really come across certain things? Or did they merely accept and follow the contents of the Bible regarding these things? Did what they read cause them to search for and understand the finer details of what is contained in a particular Bible verse or passage? Consider the practice of general anesthesia, for example, that is used in many operations on patients. A loss of feeling is induced in the whole body, together with a state of unconsciousness. Consider the fact that when God took Adam's rib and formed Eve out of it, He put him into a deep sleep. Genesis chapter 2 verse 21. Natural science, just like other fields of study, is constantly changing, and many things that were thought to be true 80 or 40 years ago have since been disproven. These things no longer appear in science books. The fact that something has been published in a well-respected science journal or written by an eminent scientist does not, therefore, mean that the particular information is completely accurate. Research publications are usually only valid until new things have been discovered, learned, or published in the same or another science journal, and thus cannot be described and accepted as complete truth. This also applies to what is described as the latest research on a particular subject, which many people are usually excited about. Some research articles were even found to have been written based on false information. Common reports in newspapers, magazines, and on television stating that researchers found that, findings suggest that, or researchers came to the conclusion that, are essentially the researchers' interpretation of the evidence they have found for something in their particular research. People indeed study or consider something in order to understand it clearly, and the results of their study are their interpretation. This interpretation could be correct or incorrect. Other researchers with more expertise and better means of examination may come to a different conclusion from the very same evidence. If scientific theory is then subject to change, how can it be set forth as being more believable than and superior to the Bible, which does not change? Why is scientific theory then pronounced as complete or ultimate truth? How credible are the numerous reports that state, "It is now believed that dinosaurs existed earlier than previously thought"? On what foundation would a person prefer to rest? A shaky one, an unproven or unconfirmed scientific theory, or a solid one, the Bible? The wonderful thing is that even after more than 5,000 years, the content of Genesis chapter 5 verse 2, for instance, is still just as much a fact in 2024 AD as it was in 2024 BC. Namely, that God created man, male and female. The truth of that scripture has not changed. The same cannot, however, be said of scientific theory. Just because something has not been proven by formal or academic research, does not mean that it is not true. This would have meant that everything believed up until the point when formal research was introduced, was actually false.